and welcome to News Today. Coming up, police arrests 4 suspects in connection to the assassination of the paramount chief of Sekwa and the Bunahafo region. Also, a Third World Network urges government of Ghana not to give in to pressure to sign onto the economic partnership agreement with the European Union, as it will be detrimental to Ghana's economy. On the foreign front, diplomats from Iran and a group of world powers seek to limit its uranium enrichment say they remain committed and optimistic about reaching a deal. And my name is Kimini Nyamani, and when I return, I'll bring you details of these stories and plenty more in a moment. Thanks for watching News Today. Now, Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has terminated its contract with Frico FD Enterprise Limited for the management of the KJTIA terminal. The KMA explains this is because Frico FD has failed to live up to its obligations in the contract. The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has since taken over management and operation of the terminal. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
In March 2010, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly contracted Frico FD Enterprise Limited to manage, operate and maintain the KJTIA terminal. The duration of the agreement was subject to satisfactory performance by the private company of their expectations under the contract. But according to the KMA, the enterprise has not only woefully failed to live up to expectations, but also defiantly refused to remedy countless breaches of terms of the agreement, notwithstanding several opportunities granted them. The Assembly cited the failure to maintain toilet facilities in good condition, exposing users to imminent health threats, and the enterprise's failure to ensure the availability of 3% of the gross revenue from the operation of the terminal in a separate account to maintain facilities in a sanitary manner as part of the reasons for the termination. Godwin Okumayame is the KMA Public Relations Officer.
The contract also violated some aspects of the contract, and therefore if you look at sanitation, for example, it's so urgent for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly to take this decision of terminating the contract between the KMA and the Frico FD Limited. All these issues has been to arbitration committees. All was in violation of the contract.
Another breach of contract, according to the Municipal Assembly, is the deliberate refusal of the enterprise to be transparent with regard to management of the terminal, indicating that Frico refused to make available books reflecting the revenue collected over the period the agreement is run to officials of the KMA.
She was supposed to, for example, set up a 3% of whatever came out of it. Revenue that came out of this place. We were supposed to pay 3% into a special account that was to be used for maintenance, and that was not done. Apart from that, you can talk about the general counterfeit receipt that was supposed to be issued to all those who transact business here, and the Assembly realized that all the money that were collected, the general counterfeit receipts were not used for that.
The Assembly said it would fail in its duties if it sits idly by and allows the facilities to be run by Frico, who pay the Assembly any sum they see fit. According to the Assembly, Frico has brazenly breached the obligation under the agreement to ensure that all revenue collected at the terminal are covered by general counterfeit receipts from the Assembly. Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has decided to terminate the agreement forthwith and has taken over possession of the terminal immediately. Drivers and traders at the terminal lauded the Assembly for the termination. They were unhappy about how Frico FD Enterprise managed and operated the area since it took over.
na ekwan na da na be e ba ko pe na ye fa so epie no ye brebebre ye sramma boaye na ekwan no eno so mayen na ehyew na wokejetia no eso ntemayen sesi na me vasa ma bibisi wokejetia ha kra na fire service car na sa na ewura ha no le nipa wu bebrebe enti esrem ani bi maba mo meboaye
plami da bia 2 cedi enso na etumi nsahu da bia 2 cedi nti esrem mo aye eka kokra se wase wo pena sa wo se wo mpene enya na wawu kra wo so aya na wo twa nti esrem mo manko mo mlametim na munye ya 1 cedi esrem pa.
They, however, appealed to the Assembly to make things easy for them by reducing charges and allowing more space for vehicular movement to avoid heavy traffic.
Now, farmers at Crowboy in the Sisala East District of the Upper West region are appealing to government and NGOs to help them conduct research into weather patterns so they will plan their farming activities accordingly. They say their inability to forecast the rainy season impacts adversely on their yields with repercussions on their livelihoods. Another report by Rafiq Salam.
The main occupation of the people of Sisala East is farming. One explanation why the district is the food basket of the Upper West region. At the start of the rainy season, the farmers in the district had hopes of better yields, having had rains as early as April. The rains were that heavy, it caused some destruction to property and displaced some persons. Their hopes were, however, dashed after the rains suddenly stopped, causing some of them to lose their crops. Some of the worst affected communities were Bugbele, Walembele, Tasso and Crowboy, with groundnuts the most damaged crop. These farmers at Crowboy, busily winnowing their groundnuts, lament the difficulty they had to go through to salvage what they have. They are also worried they may not reap enough food from this season's harvest to sustain them till the next season.
Apparently, in being with the low cost, the low harvest of the groundnut this year, even I can't even get money to go for my in-laws if I'm going to attend a funeral. Even how to get even a special for soup ingredients for my wife is a problem. So the effect, in fact, is affecting all the farmers within our areas here.
The Executive Director of Rural Organization of Women Farmers and Agro-Processing Development, ROFAD, Yana Yahya, stated that the insufficient rains has also contributed to low yields on the farm, which in a long way will affect the farmers.
Appeal to developing partners to help us research much about weather before farming, so that every farmer will be aware of the weather for this year. Either the rains are going to extend for long or shorter, so that you can actually adjust yourself according to the weather. I think this has been a major challenge both on NGO work and then governmental, but we haven't seen it to be a bigger challenge for government because there is a room created under weather focus, so they can have a research on that can actually focus on weather every year for farmers to go into production. That will reduce the burden.
Rafiq Salam's report from Crowboy in the Sisala East District of the Upper West region.
Police in the Bunahafu region have made some arrests in relation to the death of the paramount chief of Sekwa. Irekona Nakweku Jima Akwana was gunned down sometime last week by unknown assailants. Joining us over the telephone now, ACP Patrick Edusei Sapon. He's acting Bunahafu Police Commander. He's joined us over the telephone. Hello, ACP.
Hello.
ACP, we understand you've arrested some 4 persons. What's the latest with this arrest?
Yeah, that is true. We have 8 people in the capital that is assisting the police in investigation.
Come again, I didn't get that.
I said that 8 people have been taken into custody.
8?
8.
Not
8.
4. I see.
Not 4. 8 have been taken into custody, assisting police in investigation.
And what have they been charged with specifically?
Hello, come again.
I'm asking, what have they been charged with specifically?
Sorry, I can't get you well.
I'm asking what they have been charged with. You have made the arrest. Have you formally charged them?
For now, we haven't charged anybody for anything. We are still in the process of investigation.
And they are still in your custody?
Yeah, they are in our custody. And they are prisoners.
Are you going to charge them formally? Because we know that after 48 hours you can't hold them without a charge.
You leave that one for them. They are not complaining. So you leave that one. Once they are doing health investigations here, they are happy with that.
ACP, they don't have to complain. I mean, legally, you're not supposed to hold them more than 48 hours without formally charging them, are you?
That is true.
Right.
But it may be that you are going to get them again. It may also be that you are going to take them to court. So these are some of the facts we don't want to disclose for now.
I see. Many thanks, ACP. ACP Patrick Eduse Sapo is acting Bono Ahafo Police Commander for... he spoke to us in relation to the assassination of the paramount chief of Sekwa, Nana Kweku Jimakwana. He tells us 4 persons have been arrested in relation to this. 4 are still in their custody, and as to how soon they will be charged, he still tells us to leave that to them. Though legally you're supposed to hold the person 48 hours, and after that, if you can't formally charge the person, you let the person go. Let's move on to some other stories. And the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf at Tumampo in the eastern region is having to grapple with very serious infrastructural challenges authorities say is affecting the quality of teaching and learning. Yafuso Ajemfi, who's been to the school, reports almost all that the school has, from classrooms, dormitories and teaching aids, need immediate attention.
Built in 1975, the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf is the only government institution where children with hearing and speech impairment receive formal secondary and technical education. 38 years down the line, the school, which is also patronized by students from other neighboring West African countries, is being ejected from the various blocks housing the school's infrastructure for accumulated rent the school is struggling to settle. This, authorities blame on government.
The landlords are charging a monthly bill of 400 cedis, which we cannot pay because we have to pay from grants which government has to provide the school and which government has not done. For the whole of this year, we had only 2 months for the grant. So if we had owed this landlord for the past 4 years, it means you can imagine what the debt is up to now.
The dispersal of the school blocks over several scattered plots by itself exposes the students to various risks, especially as they have to traverse the busy highway that runs between them. But the buildings themselves are nothing to write home about. This story building behind me is said to have been abandoned some 10 years ago. Authorities of the school say they can't even trace the contractor to complete the rest of the job, and some portions of it are almost collapsing.
Some time ago, we were fortunate we had a dormitory there. In the morning when we came, the whole staircase has collapsed. We're only fortunate that the students didn't collapse at the daytime where our students have their classes. They used to come and study here, but it would have been a disaster.
There is also serious congestion in the classrooms, as each classroom now takes about 40 students instead of the 12 who should have been seated in a horseshoe formation, ideal for their mode of teaching.
This year alone, we are receiving more students than ever. So how can we contain, where are we going to contain them? The school therefore has to move first, because we don't have more spaces here to expand the facility. Because no landlord will permit us to make any extension.
Though the school teaches information communication technology, it has no single computer for studies, making it difficult for the students, teachers and the administration. The teachers have no choice but to improvise teaching aids. Equipment also used in teaching the vocational and practical aspect of the various courses are also not in good shape.
The tutor sometimes have to bring her machine. Previously, she has to take them through practical. So for now, we don't have machines, we don't have anything at all. The department is actually empty.
Teachers sometimes say they have to use their own money to cater for some of the urgent needs of students in anticipation of government subvention. The dormitories are equally congested, with very little room even for the students to move about. As if that's not enough, these students have to deal with badly leaking roofs. The students are, however, making the most of the situation and would even spare time to teach a journalist like me a thing or two in a sign language.
Like this, your hand.
More importantly though, the school needs immediate attention wherever it may come from, whether government, corporate or individuals, just so the Senior High Technical School for the Deaf can continue to make life meaningful for the children with hearing and speech impairment. Yafosua Jemfi, Joy News.
Now, the Convention People's Party has called on government to engage the nation with clearly defined and enunciated development policy. According to the CPP, the opulence in government must be reversed because it is sickening when there is such widespread abject poverty. The Convention People's Party has also expressed dismay with the current conversation on governance in Ghana and the descent of the country into despair and hopelessness. It is the observation of the CPP that since the CPP government of the First Republic, the development of our country has been moving backwards and not forward under the government of both the NDC and the NPP. Abu Fogo is national organizer of the Convention People's Party. He's here with me in the studio. Many thanks for joining us on News Today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to your cherished viewers.
But why such a lashing at the NDC and the NPP?
Well, it is not a lashing as such. It's a wake-up call. We did make this call when the Supreme Court case was going on, telling the NDC that we, at the end of the day, are not going to. We are not going to look at what is going on at the Supreme Court. We are going to look at what promises they gave to Ghanaians, that they had to give them the mandate. So if they think that they can be trotting on issues like that and will not concentrate on their mandate, if finally the results was declared, we're not going to say that we take out those days that they were in Supreme Court. We are going to start marking them since the day the president was sworn in. So it's just a wake-up call.
Has there really been a backwards growth in the country's development since the First Republic? Has there really been that?
Yes.
I would like to think we've moved on.
Yeah, no. For some of us, well, some fiscal infrastructure you can see, but when it comes to job, I mean, a country that could boast of over 320 factories. Now, that created jobs for the indigenous Ghanaian people, and you had even expatriates, people moving from other countries to come seek job here. Having all these factories collapse, and now everyone crying for job. You have very energetic youth here and there looking for jobs. The government is trying to do all that it can, but we think that they are not doing so much. If they put in efforts to revamp some of these factories, give support the indigenous Ghanaian private people, and some of them you have government-private partnership, will be able to sort of work and revive some of these factories that will give job to the youth, and even some, to the extent that sometimes those who even retire and still have some energy in them would have places to work instead of just sitting down and playing a worry and what have you. And well,
I'd like to believe the OR is symbolic, but right. But you also said the NDC in office now should go back to its manifesto.
Yes.
And I like to think that's what they've been doing. That's what they've been building.
Well. If you look at recent, I mean, brouhaha, some exchanges on this, excuse to say, this WikiLeaks and what have you. We think that those engagements, the president should go on with his work, because at the end of the day, if they are able to achieve their manifesto in the 4-year mandate, it goes to the general good of all Ghanaians. We would all benefit. But if it fails, then it means that we would also have to suffer under the 4 years. And that is why we are calling on them to go by their manifesto. They should try as much as they can to achieve their manifesto, because at the end of the day, if they achieve whatever they have put in there, for which Ghanaians had to give them the mandate, it goes to the benefit of all of us. And the CPP is always ready to lend their support. That is why we have our shadow cabinet who are always ready to give alternative policies to achieve some of the things that they have even raised in their manifesto. And sometimes how to go about some of the issues where if it had been an opportunity for the CPP to rule this country. So we are telling them to take the challenge. They should wake up. They should forget some of these things and concentrate on their work. So far, we have seen the interventions talking about the schools, the promise for 200 teacher colleges and what have you. We're waiting. We are seeing that if some of these things even work on, then we can start to even export some labor. Indeed, if we have so many teachers that we're able to fill our schools, we should be able to export to some of the non-English countries who want to at least have English as their second or third language. And that can also generate some income for people. And we can have some foreign exchange by way of remittances from such people.
But are we not already exporting labor, which we've called brain drain?
Yeah, well, no. For that one is on a different ground. It is just that people just think that what is happening here is not much, and they are going out. But we are talking the case where it becomes the government's policy that we train a lot of people, go sign some agreement with certain countries, so that with those agreements you have people who are going not only as houseless, not only going to look for documents to stay at work, but they are going on the ticket of government, that they can go and sort of stay there as citizens of Ghana and what.
Let's talk about the CPP for a moment. You have been quiet. What's new with the CPP?
No, we haven't been quiet, right? We all saw what we went through, and well, we had our issues on the drawing board. We have moved to the grassroots. Like it said, that organization decides it all. I mean, we have learnt our mistakes, but indeed, experience is being brought to play. We, after suffering that defeat in the elections and going to Buem for the last election, experience gathered there. I mean, putting some of the things together, by God's grace, we realized that we're able to deliver Kumbungu. And we think that with those experiences, if we start with the grassroots, we will be able to go somewhere. So we have started our grassroots
and the major talks with the PNC?
Well, the major talks, yeah, we are, but like we said, we want that issue to be out of the media. Not only the PNC, we are looking for other related socialist groupings or proactive, pragmatic parties that will come so that we can get a great force to move forward. But nonetheless, the CPP, we are not sleeping. We are not waiting for any party. We are working hard. If it comes, fine. If it doesn't come, we pray that we are able to garner the energy that we need to move the vehicle that we have, so that if others deem it fit to even join, so that we can arrive at a destination that we can save this country, we go.
We wish you all the best, Abu. Abu Fogo is National Youth Organizer for the Convention People's Party. National Organizer, rather, for the Convention People's Party. And we've been talking the CPP and their call on government to, wake up and then see to the growth of the economy by going back to their manifestos. We move on to some other stories now. And the Bureau of National Investigations last Friday detained the pharmacist at Gorso Hospital in the Bunahafo region for allegedly selling burnt drugs imported by Tabinco Pharmaceuticals Company. Ajuman Bedu was arrested following reports that he has stockpiled some drugs burnt by the Food and Drugs Authority. He was taken in on Friday and kept behind bars, only to be released on Monday evening. Frederick C.K. Asamoah is lawyer for Ajuman Bedu, the suspect in this issue. Hello, lawyer Asamoah.
Hello, good afternoon.
Very well, good afternoon to you too. But finally, your client has been released. What's the latest development on this issue?
Oh, nothing specific. They just took him through some interrogation. They didn't lay any particular charge upon him. And at the end of it, they just let him go without any charge.
Right. Speaking to our sister radio station, Joy FM, I heard that your client said it will be in discussions with you as to the next line of action to take. What is this next line of action?
Actually, they flattened everything. We thought that they would come out with a specific charge. Either by, in fact, there are two dimensions they were talking about. They were talking about some expired drugs with the hospital, and then they were talking about this ban on bleach products. Now, at the end of the day, none of them came out at a point to charge our client. So now that they've let him be, we wonder whether they'll call him back. And if they don't call him, we may not do too much, but except that it is totally unfair for security agency to arrest, detain a citizen of Ghana from Friday to Monday and come out and say that, well, we are sorry, there's nothing against you, you can just go free. It's not fair. It's a breach of his human rights.
Absolutely. So let me understand this. Your client does not intend to do anything about this breach?
Well, we need to meet and then have a discussion. But for now, you know, he's coming all the way from the Brong-Ahafo region. He's gone back to his family, and then we shall discuss the implications. But so long as nothing specific came out from the DNI, we just see it as a strong breach of human rights, and then we'll advise ourselves accordingly.
Many thanks, Lawyer Asamoah. Lawyer Frederick Asamoah is counsel for the suspect in the case of the stockpiling of banned Tobinco pharmaceutical products at Gorso Hospital. The suspect in question is the pharmacist Ajiman Badu. And you're watching News Today. I'll be right back. You're welcome back. And the Ghana Chamber of Mines has called on government to settle about $20 million VAT refund to some mining companies since 2010. It is hoping the request will be included in the 2014 budget. According to the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Tony Obim, the failure of the parts of the government to pay the monies will worsen the cost of doing business as far as mining companies are concerned. According to him, this year has been a challenging one due to gold price behavior and high cost of operations. He also commended government for not implementing the windfall profit tax in the 2013 budget. The Chamber of Mines CEO urged government to reconsider the implementation of the tax in its future plans. Third World Network is urging government of Ghana not to give in to pressure to sign on to the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. Jachi Tano of the Economic Forum Unit Third World Network says the EPA will result in a yearly loss of $347 million to Ghana against the payment of $51 million if we refuse to sign.
Precisely because we are so dependent on the European Union. Which means that we also, not only is it our biggest export market, but we also import heavily from the European Union. Which means that if we actually impose a free trade agreement, which is what the EPA is, which means duty-free, quota-free entry of European goods into our market and vice versa, it means that we lose a lot of import tax revenue that we get from European products. A lot more than we stand to lose if we were to face an additional penalty of entering the European market without an EPA. Statistics show that if without an EPA, the cost to our exporters, some of our exporters, 28% of our exporters to the European Union will be, in money terms, will be an additional $51 million a year. But if we sign the EPA, we avoid that extra cost to them. However, if we sign the EPA, the government, the economy as a whole, not just those exporters, together, collectively, as a country, we lose to the tune of $347 million a year. So even on the basis of, if you like, the most rudimentary or elementary arithmetic, why do you give up $347 million a year in order to avoid paying a penalty of $51 million a year? It doesn't really make sense. I'd rather keep my $347 million and, if need be, subsidize for the time being those who will incur those $51 million losses, and also use more of that money to support them to diversify their markets, to upgrade their technologies, to upgrade their production, and to ensure that actually we are not locked into these raw materials that we are sending to Europe. The EPA deals with what you call behind-the-border issues as well. It means that the internal policy regime for how we treat foreign investment, for how we treat our services situation, for how we treat technology transfers and the agreements that we have with companies from the European Union, all will be affected. In other words, our policy space to determine for ourselves what type of foreign investment and on what terms that we want it, what type of technology transfer arrangements do we want, what type of services regimes do we want. All those things will be taken away from us, locked in together with this. And it's an agreement that has a sanctions regime attached to it. It's an agreement which it doesn't end, in which case you lose your policy space, you lose your fiscal revenue. And then also you have the third challenge. The third challenge is that the EPA will force a country like Ghana to have a separate trade regime with the European Union from the west of West Africa, which means that on top of we actually divide our region, and our region is a far more important region for us in terms of small traders, food security, so on and so forth. It's also a far more important region for us in terms of manufacturing and industries.
Now, at least 160 hotels and hostels in 2 regions have so far been closed down in an ongoing clampdown by the Ghana Tourism Authority targeted at hospitality centers which have failed to renew their licenses. The authority says those which do not meet the required standards will also be shut down until they make the necessary modifications.
Public Affairs Manager of the Tourism Authority, Ben Ohene Aye, says the exercise has become necessary because some business owners have, due to the authority's constraints, taken advantage to commence operations without the necessary licenses.
The law says that on the 1st of January every year, every tourism enterprise must renew its license. Some who will be asked to do or rectify their anomalies or the things that we don't find pleasant, that will enhance your operations, they will not do it. They all fall within the category that will suffer from these enforcement exercises. I must admit that we can't be everywhere. We don't, sometimes logistical problems, so you can't be going there on a daily basis.
He says acceptable standards for hotels especially depend on their classification. The more the stars, the more sophisticated their services and facilities should be. He says a low class, however, does not necessarily mean a compromise of standards.
When you are a budget hotel or an unclassified hotel, you operate within certain specifications. That one, we don't demand too much from you. You need a bed and a table to write on top. Sometimes, Ghana is hot, so you need a fan. You need windows for cross ventilation, you see. Let's say from 2-star going, then I'll be talking of a room of a certain size, a comfortable bed. Let's say a fridge should be in the room. You need an air condition. The difference between a 3- and 5-star classification is not much. You see, as far as we don't look normally at the buildings, we look at the degree of comfort of the visitor.
Though the country reached the 1 million visitation mark in 2012, Ben Ohene Aye conceded there was the need to improve infrastructure at existing tourist sites in order to compel tourists to spend more money. The authority is advising individuals interested in entering the industry to seek guidance from them before starting projects so they meet the required standards.
On the heel of the appointment of a new police council, government says the retooling and recruitment exercise it undertook between 2009 and now has increased the efficiency of the police service, balancing the 1 police personnel to about 1,000 people to a current 1 police to 784. Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister Felix Kwakye said, although this falls below the UN standard of 1 police to 500 people, the improvement is remarkable. Among efforts to support security services delivery, he says there are provisions of modern communication gadgets, some 14,924 vehicles, expansion of the police hospital, a modern forensic lab, and the establishment of a marine police to help protect the territorial waters. Let's take a listen to him.
Committed itself to ensure that the country's security services are adequately supported to be able to carry out their mandates of protecting and ensuring the safety of Ghanaians at all times. The police benefited immensely from government's drive to re-equip them. Between 2009 to date, as many as 1,424 vehicles have been procured for the police service. Indeed, in 2012 alone, a total of 1,089 high-performance vehicles were procured for the police to enable them carry out their activities. Some of the notable activities that they engaged in was policing the 2012 elections, which have been widely hailed as perhaps the most peaceful elections we've had in our recent history. Now, this is a vast improvement upon the situation that existed prior to 2009. In fact, our records show that between 2001 and 2008, the police could boast of only 547 vehicles nationwide. But the situation now is remarkably different. They have 1,424 vehicles, which is actually almost a tripling of what they had at the time. And this was undertaken under the auspices of President Mahama. They now also have Maverick vehicles that enable them control routes and meet other security challenges. The police hospital is expanded to cater for even more people who go there to seek treatment. They have also taken delivery of modern mobile clinic vans, which helps them in their operations. Also, they now boast of an ultra-modern forensic laboratory, which is equipped with modern gadgets that assist them in crime detection. They now have crime scene investigation vans that are also beneficial in terms of the ability to move swiftly to crime scenes, gather the needed evidence, and unravel some of the crimes that are committed. So on the back of the inauguration of the Police Council, government commits to do more to ensure that we maintain our peace and stability as a country, we protect our democracy, and ensure that we do not come under threat from any hostile forces.
Rashida Baba Kadiri will bring us some sports after this.
Good afternoon, I am Rashida Baba Kadiri with the latest in the world of sports. Now we begin from the stables of Accra Hearts-of-Oak, who were 102 years yesterday, and unfortunately it's not going too well for them. They've got double trouble. Remember that in week 10 of the Ghana Premier League 2013-2014 season, they hosted King Faisal at the Accra Sports Stadium, and that game ended 1-1. Some of the fans were not too happy with that result and thought that it was the referee on the day, referee Otis, who manipulated that result. And so a section of the fans invaded the pitch after the game, and something that the PLB sees as unfair, and something that the Ghana Football Association is also dealing with. And so as a result, they have been banned from the Accra Sports Stadium indefinitely. So Hearts-of-Oak will be playing their home matches away from home. And in week 12, that's in tomorrow's fixture against Mediama, which they were supposed to be hosting, they will have to go and play that fixture at the Robert Mensah Stadium in Cape Coast. And also about their coaching issues, we are told that on Thursday the board of the team or the club will meet to decide on the fate of David Duncan, but we are also told that Togbe Afede, who is the majority shareholder of the club, did not interfere in Coach David Duncan's job. Now, still on the issues of Hearts-of-Oak, some fans have been reacting to this issue. And first, we'll stop at Chapter O, and an executive member of one of the supporters wings of Accra Hearts-of-Oak, which happens to be Chapter O, Aziz Harinafuta, has been speaking to the issue.
This is a totally and completely retrogressive decision. You do not sack a coach who has taken a club from the doldrums.
We agree with the managing director that, look, this is what the supporters are saying. Even though Hearts-of-Oak is a limited liability club, we have the largest shareholder or whatever, but they shouldn't remember Hearts-of-Oak is a matter of heart. Yes, you can make your money, you can have the team on paper, but on the ground, no. This is Hearts-of-Oak and this is Africa. You know, the players are disturbed now. That is what we don't want to happen. No matter what we are doing, we are Hearts-of-Oak. We love the club. So we will not allow the club to lose a point.
Have you written officially to the management of the club to state your displeasure with the decision that has been taken?
Not yet.
Have you spoken to Coach Duncan since this happened?
Yeah, I spoke to him on Thursday.
But you haven't spoken to him since this decision was taken?
I called him, he didn't pick up his phone, and I know he will return my call. He didn't pick up the phone, but he should know, Duncan should know. We are not doing this because of him, we are doing it because of House of Oak. That is the most important. He can take his decision that he don't want to do anything with the club anymore. We will not say anything.
Now, all is almost set for season 7 of the annual Joy Sports Invitational Tournament coming up on November 23 at the Airwalk Sports Stadium. Now, I'm sure you've been monitoring all our platforms on TV, on radio, and online, and you've seen how the teams are gearing up for the competition. They've been talking about what they can do, what they have done to ensure that they win trophies on that day and all of that. Now, our next stop, the train, the Invitational Sports train, actually stopped at the offices of Global Access. They are a microfinance savings and loans company, and they have also been talking about what they can do on November 23.
This year, even though I have lost most of my players, Exodus, but I have equally good players. So I'm assuring you that the kind of game we are going to play, we're not putting on it because we know our opponents are also getting ready. So, on the field of play, you see the kind of game I will introduce. Last year, I played the catalytic formula. But this year, I am coming out with a new formula. And after the game, after we have lifted up the cup, I'll tell you the kind of game we played.
We are very poised for this year's game. And all that we want to say is watch out for Global Access. We are not giving the cup, we are maintaining, we are holding on to the cup. Yes, and we also want to say a big thank you for Joy FM for giving us the opportunity to sell ourselves, to tell the public what Global Access is all about.
Number 9. Number 9. I was part of last year's team, and this year we have a very formidable team. Wow. So I know for sure that we will defend the cup.
Yeah, I'm number 8. Yeah, number 8. Yes. Still in the midfield. I'll be an attacking striker. So when the midfield follow up on me, I just forward the ball into the net. Oh yes, of course, we are going to do. I'm scoring only 3 goals for the day. Yeah.
I have 4 of these guys. So if he's scoring 3, then just imagine I have 12 goals. 12 goals assured.
This is on the field of play. I'm playing on my 3. You understand? Yeah, that is where I'm playing. I'm the lefty. I'm playing and I'm scoring just only 1 goal.
You score only 1 goal?
1 goal.
First of all, how much is your winning bonus for each game?
For each game, what I've been told, but from my directors, that for each goal we are supposed to get 1,200. That is 10,000.
Now, before I take leave of you, Novak Djokovic retained his ATP World Tour Finals title with a convincing win over #1 Rafael Nadal. The Serb, who lost the top ranking to Nadal last month, won 6-3, 6-4 at the O2 Arena in London. Djokovic, 26, extended his unbeaten run to 22 matches as he claimed the season-ending title for the 3rd time. He will now head to Belgrade, where Serbia take on the Czech Republic in the Davis Cup final from Friday. That will do it for Sports on News Today. It's proudly sponsored by Tigo. Smiley but Tigo.
You're welcome back to News Today. News from elsewhere. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has said that none of the differences between world powers and Iran over its nuclear program are big enough to prevent agreement. He said they came extremely close to a deal at the weekend in Geneva, but he says the rest of the world has to be certain that Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapons program. 3 days of negotiations ended with a breakthrough, but diplomats will meet again on 20th November. Kerry reaffirmed that it would take time to work through differences between the U.S. and Iran. Iran says that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes only, but world powers suspects it is seeking to develop a nuclear weapons capability. The leader has demanded the immediate release of the former President Laurent Gbagbo from the International Criminal Court. The former Ivorian leader has been held in custody at the Hague-based court for nearly 2 years. The ICC is gathering evidence against Gbagbo for his role in a civil war that followed his refusal to accept the October 2010 presidential vote. According to Boubacar Kouni, administrator and organizer of the party, it is illegal for the ICC to continue holding Gbagbo. But critics say Gbagbo should be held accountable for the lives lost during the post-election conflicts that arose when he failed to accept electoral defeat. So the Pentagon is sending an aircraft carrier as part of the U.S. drive to accelerate aid efforts in the typhoon-ravaged central Philippines.